Hello, my name is Desmond Lynch. I'm 26 years old and I'm a filmmaker. This is a special behind-the-scenes audio commentary episode on the production of my short film, SHOWTIME. In this episode, I am interviewing art director Lucy Reid. Lucy handled the art decoration and set design for both SHOWTIME as well as my other short film, Goodnight Midnight. Without further ado, let's begin. Hello, my name is Desmond Lynch. I'm 26 years old and I'm a filmmaker. With me today is a very special guest, and that leads me into our first question. Who are you and what do you do?
Well, my name is Lucy Reid. I'm also 26 years old and I'm also a filmmaker, but I work primarily in the art department, usually as art director.
That's great. And I think we first met, you were the producer of a short film called Tale of Tragedy, a Tale of Tragedy, I think it is. I think there's an A before the tale. And I remember that one because I often tell the story of how, like, you know, we were filming like during a hurricane. I was actually telling Mateo about that yesterday. That's always a fun one to bring up. But that's how we met. Yeah. And then like you were the art director of the Unholy Lands film. And then like after that, I think I asked you to be the art director of SHOWTIME. I think you're actually one of the first people I brought on board. I believe that you were like one of the first people that actually read the script as well. So that's pretty cool. And then
yes, privilege.
Yeah, privilege. I remember like the first time you actually came to the set. You came and I was just off from work and I was like, you know, like in these dirty clothes from like doing some dirty work. And like I was like eating some porridge and I was like showing you like a test film and all this stuff, and you're asking like how long, how did you get access to this place? Like how long they letting you like stay here for the day? And I was like, what do you want about, Lucy? I was like, no, like how'd you get access? Do you have like keys? Did they get that? Is there a person comes by let you in? I just looked, you know, I was like, Lucy, I live here. Yeah, I was just like, you know, because I think that's my mind was like, oh, we're filming where I live, just because like, you know, locations are a hassle, especially if you don't have much money. So like, it just made sense to film where I lived. My flatmates, thankfully, were very cool about us letting us film there and turning the flat into what looked okay for Dunluce Avenue to an absolute pigsty.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, you want.
You know, you're so right doing it in your own space because, yeah, you're saying costs, but also messing up someone else's house doesn't always leave people on great terms afterwards. So,
yeah, 100%.
Best way to do it for art department.
100%. Like, and yeah, I think like I was thinking back to what exactly you did for the project, and I was thinking like, okay, so there's obviously like, you know, the ending scene, my personal favorite, when you put up the red wallpaper, because that originally wasn't there, so you did that, you dirtied it up, and you also made it like, you know, look a bit dingier as well. And then like another one came, you changed the curtains by the window scene. You made them look a bit dingier as well, because I think like. Yeah, we had to cheat the location because our living room didn't actually have a window facing out to the street, so we had to use one of the bedrooms. And so I think your whole thing is like it didn't look nice and also looked like bedroom curtains, not like something you'd see in a living room. And then like I think one of my favorite ones is like there's like if with a keen eye you'll see little like corners in the kitchen where there's mold, and that's all fake mold that you like you like drew up and like put up there, and like every time I see it on the film I was like, ugh, that looks disgusting.
Well, that's the thing, Des, your house was too nice. It needed to be tainted by some fake mold and some ripped wallpaper, you know. Yeah. And also the curtains you had in the living room were far too nice. They needed just out of the picture.
That's great.
Take it as a compliment.
Yeah, and you also like supplied a bunch of practical lights, aka lamps, because like Tom's like, we need like, you know, I know you want pure dark, but like you actually need sources of light because you like no matter how dark it is, you need to see something. So like a lot of, I think almost all the lamps were provided by you. It's like the actual lights you see in the film were provided by you. So you provided that. You also provided a heater as well, just to keep us all warm, which is greatly appreciated.
My kind heart for the crew, you know.
Yeah, going out of your way. Yeah, I found the word eventually. Out of your way to like get everything for us, and for really cheap as well. You're really good at like finding like a lot of great stuff on like a low budget, which is like a great skill set to have. Originally, I thought you'd be bored with this project because it was like compared to the Holy Lands, where like, you know, you literally like destroyed an entire street, just like made it look like there was like a not even a party, like a riot happened outside, And I felt like, oh, she's used to doing that type of stuff. Like Showtime's gonna be boring to her. And I remember like, yeah, you came with ideas. I think one of them like I showed you the kitchen where we were shooting, and like you were talking about, oh, could we like punch a hole in this wall and then plaster it up to make it look like someone punched a hole in the wall. And I remember just like thinking like I have a deposit, absolutely not. And like, you know,
which is fair.
Yeah, which is fair. And
I'll blame Miguel for trying.
Yeah, but it was like, you know, you really like outdid yourself with all this stuff. Because I thought like you were just gonna like supply like a little bit, but like no, you changed the entire house to make it look awesome. And I think like what benefited like with having you on the project is because like I think like you kind of knew people like Camilla, and you kind of hung around with them a lot, and you kind of know like what their living situation is, or what the crack is with them. And I remember like you kept like pitching like, oh, you ever know in those houses they have this and this and this, and they have like a weed garden and all this stuff. And I was like, no, I've never been to these houses. I don't know what you're talking about, Lucy.
Well, yeah, unfortunately I have. So at least I got to bring my expertise to this film. Yeah.
No, it looked good as well. Alright, so that leads me to my third question. So, what made you interested in coming on board for Showtime?
Well, obviously, first and foremost, love to help a friend. I always want to get on board with a project. But the main reason, honestly, because, as you say, I was one of the first people that got to read the script, which, again, privilege. But it really resonated with me. And I honestly think I related to it a lot more than I would like to admit. And I think it probably relates to a lot of people who probably won't admit it. But I think at the minute with Belfast becoming an up-and-coming city in tourism in Northern Ireland, really booming over the last 10 years, right? We're kind of getting an influx of films like, maybe The Holy Lands is a bad example, but kind of those feel-good films where, you know, or even Kneecap, where there's like a bit of humour, and yes, there's dark issues, but you're seeing the more positive light, whereas I think yours was really important because it kind of reflects what goes on behind the scenes, maybe. Because I think there's like a line in the film where it's either like you can turn a blind eye or you can look away from it. I think a lot of people tend to do that here, but we still have like those internalized feelings of like, is this all there is? You know, looking around, you work a 10-hour shift, you come home, a brothel's getting raided across the street, which, by the way, is factual.
Yeah.
For people who aren't aware, like that does genuinely happen. And yes, it will probably be back in a week, and you'll be watching another raid in a couple of months. You see that, you smoke a joint, you go to bed, you wake up and do it all over again. Like, I think that's the living situation for a lot of people over here, and we kind of tend to not talk about it or not dwell on it. Like, I really think in Northern Ireland, like, you know yourself, maybe like post-troubles, or that's just the way we are as Irish people. We kind of like internalize those things and tend to just put on a brave face to the rest of the world. And I think, like, you know, we're actually seeing Carla's inner thoughts there of, is this all there is? Like, the people in the muck that are having to work to get a better life, and does that better life ever really come when that's your surroundings? And I think it touched on some like really important issues as well, like obviously the prostitution brothels, but drug abuse as well, and drug selling, because like, again, I said I've been in those kinds of houses. I unfortunately know a lot of people that sell and don't have any guilty feelings about that. Each to their own, I guess. Like, but I think we see from Carla's perspective that they have a reason, not a good reason to be doing those things, but, you know, they're trying to do better for themselves, and if that means shafting someone else to get a bit of extra money, like we see her doing with Kenny, the fact that she says they're not going to stop like selling to him even though they can see the state that he's in, it just kind of shows how it is survival of the fittest over here sometimes. You know, we're all kind of doing these things to each other, and it's just so we can try to have a better life, which we almost judge the upper class, like the clean people, for doing. But I think we're all guilty of that and looking away from those issues. And also the fact that, even the fact that Carla says that she's been smoking from she was 12 years old, again, like, the majority of people I know, I would say, have similar stories to that. Like, most people that I grew up with are in that kind of situation now. Like, they can't go to bed with don't know whether it's a joint or it's something stronger that they're using on a daily basis. Like in Northern Ireland, that is genuinely a really harsh reality. Like people live like that. So I have to give you credit where credit's due. I thought it was an amazing script, and I really did want to be a part of depicting that.
Oh, that's very kind of you. But yeah, I think like but there is at least like my perspective, like what it's like living here, and like your perspective living here. And I think it's like just there's Belfast, but there's also like there's like there's like a shitty area in every town in the world, and I think like there's a nice area and there's a shitty area, and it's kind of like it's a reflection of like what kind of life is like that, and like like it is like like Camilla is like an expression of my own anxiety of just like living and like like doing a job you don't really like and seeing some things you'd rather not see, and like living in a place like, it's not particularly comfortable. Yeah, it is an expression of those type of feelings.
I also, sorry, I was just gonna say, I also think you do a really good job of kind of like encapsulating that sort of Northern Irish mentality, though, of yes, you can see these things and have a laugh about it, like, oh, Showtime, it's a bit of sarcasm, but then so quickly go into the more depressing, like, oh, this is what I'm seeing on a daily basis, which is true, like, yeah.
Yeah, I think like because like because of the history of our province, we have like slightly more mental health issues just because of the violence. I think that does have like a ripple effect into like later generations, and like what's that like living with people and all that stuff. And it is like separated by like because I was talking like to Martin McGuire on Trespass, who's the lead there, and that was a Troubles film, and he was talking about it's like if you lived on a Malone Road, like the Troubles were like for the most part was just an inconvenience. You know what I'm saying? Whereas if you're in the Falls and you're in the Shankill, like that's a daily threat like every day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. Well, yeah, I really do like the lines in it about like the clean and in the muck, and kind of highlighting that difference between the upper class here and the lower middle class, which I think I've seen a bit of both sides of, and honestly, I think I relate a lot more to the people in the muck,
Well, it is that. There's also like a sense of innocence, like a lot of people have, which kind of weirds me out. Because you ever like start talking to someone, and they kind of like swear and they kind of cringe. You're like, oh dear, I shouldn't have done that type of stuff. And then you start like you start like talking about like like serious matters, and they kind of grow uncomfortable. They don't like.
Well, yeah, but I think that's what you do so well in the film, though, and I think. Again, it would depend on which audience member's watching it, because a lot of people probably watch that and they're like, what the hell, like you're saying, completely shocked by it. But to me and a lot of people I know would watch that and be like, oh yeah, the brothels, and oh yeah, shitty wallpaper ripping off and that kind of house, and the paint can with the cigarettes. Like I said, I've been in houses like that, I've seen that. You just become a bit desensitized to it after time when you're used to.
Yeah, that paint can was disgusting. Like, I think like... Yeah, I think like what you go like I think you were telling me about how you just applied that because like you asked a friend to like just smoke a packet of cigarettes, put it in this ashtray, and then you took that ashtray. You think you filled up with a bag of just like finished cigarettes, put it in a paint can, and just filled it with like I don't know what you like was it like water with like mixed with tea or something like that, just to make it look like
water mixed with tea, but also there was a lot of grim remnants at the bottom. Because I think I found that paint can at a dump, actually, because I had a few in my house and I was like, they're too clean. Like, yes, I could dirty it up myself, but I want it to be a bit more authentic. So I literally found that from a dump and added my own stuff to it, but it was already grim. Like, oh my God. It did the job.
It's only there for one scene. Like, it's good because I like like having like the ripple and just seeing the cigarettes and all this disgusting stuff. It just, I don't know, it's a vibe. It's a vibe. There's no easy way to say it.
Yeah. And the fact that it's at the start of the film, I think it really sets the tone.
Yeah, 100%. And leads me to my next question. Question 4: how did you approach the art design for Showtime, and were there any challenges?
Well, I think my general approach at the beginning was, yes, trying to make it as messy and kind of showing the squalor that she's living in, but also making it a bit more interesting, because like so many shorts, like maybe other people haven't seen them, but like when you study film or you go to uni, you see all these shorts that are set in either Dunluce Avenue or the Holy Lands, like those kind of like cheaper housing, right? You see the blank cream walls all the time, and yes, it's good to kind of show that because it's authentic and like the story that we're trying to tell, this is where those people would kind of be living. But like, for example, in the hallway, you were saying about the wallpaper, like I just had to think of ideas like that to be, okay, how can I make this still messy and still, you know, terrible looking, but also not just have an entire shot with just like a third of it being a blank wall, you know? And I think that's where obviously my creativity came in, and found some wallpaper and I was like, oh, okay, bit of red, bit of colour, we can add that in and rip it up to still make it look grim. And then I just have loads of crap. So dirtying up the house wasn't that difficult to me. I kind of enjoyed it. And like I say, I've been in loads of houses like that. So I had a pretty good idea of what that would look like and how many things I needed to add to not make it comical, like as in there's rubbish on the floor. Yes, there's like a few bits and pieces, but you don't want it to just be a landfill, do you know what I mean? So kind of striking the balance between what is going to look awful but also interesting, you know. And I think even adding the molds, like stuff like that, like yes, it makes it look a bit more dirty, but it also kind of takes away from those blank walls as well. Because I think maybe in a few films I've worked on in the past, I've kind of left them, and watching the finished product I'm like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. So I think your film was like the perfect opportunity where I was like, right, okay, I'm ready for this challenge now, like I'm going to do this. Specific challenges, I guess, like you said, that we had to cheat the like living room area. Obviously we had a blanket, which I don't think looks bad in the film. I think it looks pretty good. It merges in with the curtains, but we had to cover up like some more furniture that you know, we didn't see in the previous shot, or that just wouldn't have fit in with where I think it was like
it was like a wardrobe. I think it was like, it was like pretty big and it had stuff in it. So I was like, we moved it. It was just gonna be a nightmare. So why don't we just like, we had a Teo's sound blanket. So we also had a few C stands. So from what I understand, we put up the C stand, put up some sound blankets to absorb some reverb, and then we put over a blanket just to make it look like an extension of a curtain or something else.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like trying to make a bedroom look like a living room, I guess. And, you know, because it was such a small house, we couldn't really just, you know, it's not a bigger production where we're like, right, okay, get rid of everything in the room. You know, we kind of had to work with it. So I do think that was challenging. And because even getting that chair into that bedroom, I think was a pain in the ass, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because it was like pretty big. I think, do we have to take, do we have to take the ends off it? Or?
Yeah, like the little feet.
Oh, yeah. There's like tiny doors and they're right beside, and it's like we're going through that hallway like that we shot in, and it was like so fucking narrow. I was just like, and people were doing other stuff as well. I was like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. That was
That's always the most fun part of the art department, trying to move around the furniture around a busy working crew without trying to damage anything. That's always a challenge, and especially when, you know, there's only one of me, and of course you guys helped, which I really appreciate, but I guess that was probably the most challenging part of it. But other than that, it was just, striking up a balance between interesting and still realistically grim, which was fun.
Yeah, and you're moving all about that furniture because, like, I think, if I remember correctly at the time, you're on that, like, intermittent fasting diet. It's like the thing Terry Crews does, where he doesn't eat for, like, he only eats, like, twice a day. He eats, like, a big chunk, at the morning, and then a big chunk in the evening. So you're just like moving about all this heavy shit, like starving.
Yeah, that's my job, man.
Oh god, better you than me. Yeah, it's a bad diet. But
it is, yeah.
Yeah, and like I think like there was like, you know, obviously like you're by yourself. I think like you notice like, you know, there's only 2 people in the camera department. Things just take longer to like get set up and stuff like that. So. Art department wise, I think it's like a similar thing, especially like, you know, you had so much to do. So I think what we did, we had like a day before we actually shot, we had like lighting tests, and pretty much like all you were doing that day was like setting up stuff like the curtains and setting up like the wallpaper and like the set deck and the kitchen for the most part. And like, you know, that it's important to do that ahead of time, just because like, you know, on the day you would have been like sweating trying to like sort all that stuff out before we had a film. Especially when you're moving in between Tom and Patrick, who are like setting up lights, and you're like, I need to do my thing, and they're like, oh, I need to do my thing, and it's like such a tiny space. And like, what we did, like, I think we got that sorted ahead of time before we actually shot anything. And as soon as we finished with the kitchen, as soon as we finished the living room, and we moved on to the bedroom, I think you and our lovely producer Olivia, who helped out, just started cleaning up the kitchen, just because I live there. I don't want to live in a shithole. So yeah, just like, I think you just like started like taking stuff off and trying to clean the fridge, and then some stuff couldn't come off the walls. So that just stayed there, unfortunately. But it is what it is.
There's always some damage from a film set. Always some.
Yeah, it's always. But it could have been worse.
Could have been worse, exactly. And at least it looked good on screen. That's the most important part.
Oh, 100%. So long as I'm happy, that's all that matters.
Exactly. As long as the director has a smile, then it's all good. Not that you were smiling after with your dirty wall, but shooting days irrelevant.
That's 100%. And I think that brings us off to my last question of today. Is there any advice about working in the art department that you would give to your former self?
Yes. I think, honestly, just to have a little more faith in myself. Because, I'm sure you understand yourself, like when you're starting off in a really big industry, you're obviously, that's based on your name, really. It's obviously not your normal kind of job. You want people to like you. You need people to think you did a good job because you want to get hired again. It's kind of easy to fall into stressing and burning yourself out, to think every little decision that you make, like, oh, is this good enough? Like, are they going to hire me again if I do this? And, oh, maybe that's not good enough and they're not going to like it. I questioned a lot of my creative decisions a lot at the start because I just didn't think I was good enough. But like now, after having some time away from the industry, like even rewatching Showtime over the last few days and looking back at different projects I've worked on, like I've kind of impressed myself, being like, oh, that actually looks really good, and like fair play to you. So I think like if I was talking to my former self, it would just be to, you're being hired in that department for a reason. You have a talent. Trust yourself. Go with your instinct and your intuition, and let that lead the way. And that's not to say don't pressure yourself to do a good job. Of course, everyone wants to, but just trust yourself a bit more. Have a bit more faith in what your abilities are and how good you are.
Good advice. Yeah, and like I said, like you were great on Showtime. Even like you did a fantastic job for Goodnight Midnight as well. The second film, I think you turned like a really boring Airbnb to like a really like lovely spot. Like very short time as well. So again, props for that. I think that's most of what we have to talk about. So Lucy, thanks so much for coming here today. I really appreciate you talking to me today, and really appreciate you being on Showtime, and hopefully I see you again sometime down the line.
Yeah, well, no, of course. Appreciate you having me on board and trusting me with your film.
Thanks so much, Lucy.
Thank you.
Well, that was my interview with Lucy. I hope you all enjoyed it. There are more interviews with cast and crew yet to come. Thank you all for listening, and goodbye.